The slave gene. Good morrow, this is Chris speaking, Shores of Infinity, your channel about aspects of spirituality that very few people want to hear about. This channel is not about exchanging one fake reality for another. It's about uncovering if there is something that we can call truth. Is it all fake, or is there some truth buried beneath all this rubble? I often get the feedback that I'm talking about negative aspects of spirituality, the dark side. But so what? If there is a negative or dark side to spirituality, I want to know about it. And maybe you want to know about it too, so that you can tell bullshit apart from nuggets. So Happy New Year 2023, and we start with a juicy topic. Is there a slave gene? Is there something in human beings that make us obedient, codependent, submissive, afraid, subservient? Are we perfect subjects to some ruling elite? Whatever the ruling elite is, it doesn't matter. But are most people perfect subjects? Are we somehow limited in our mental and spiritual capacity? We know in science, for example, that we don't use about 90% of our brain. Why? We know in spirituality that there are things, supernatural abilities we call siddhis in India. But most people have no access to them. Why? We know that there's something like intuition, where we can make decisions that are good for us instead of bad for us without thinking. But most people cannot use their intuition, or cannot tell their intuition apart from their thoughts, emotions, instincts, and so on. Why? Are we somehow limited? Is there a buffer? Some hobble built in? Some handicap? Are we tethered somehow? There's a book called The Untethered Soul. Yeah, it feels like we're tethered, don't it? Doesn't it? Do you know this feeling that somehow you're limited, but you know that there's more, there's more capacity, there's more potential, but you cannot set it free. You don't know how to unlock it. I'm sure you do know this feeling, and this is what Gurjieff called the Kundabuffer organ. Gurjieff said there's something built in, he called it the Kundabuffer, which is an invisible organ built in to limit us, to diminish us. Actually, in the Old Testament of the Bible, this is also described, that this has happened to humanity. And it has been described in many other religions and mythologies around the world. The Mayas, for example, or the Sumerians and Egyptians and so on. So Gurjieff called it the Kundabuffer organ. And I recently had a look on YouTube if anyone made already a video about the Kundabuffer organ. And I expected to find hundreds and thousands of videos. But surprisingly, I only found 3. 2 are a little bit boring. They just read off some texts. Although one of them is not bad. And one is the guy who made the videos obviously completely nuts. So there are videos about everything on YouTube. But there are only 3 videos on the Kundabuffer organ, which is a very, very important topic. Are we limited somehow? And can this limitation be removed? This should be a major question. I'm sure you have been thinking about that at some point, even if you haven't heard of Gurjieff's Kundabuffer organ. At the very least, you have probably asked yourself, why are some people enlightened and I'm not? Or maybe you've asked yourself, why is this person a genius and I'm probably not. Or why is this person, I don't know, a sports pro in something I also have been training for my whole life, but I can't reach this level. Or maybe on a political level you have been asking yourself, why are so many people behaving like sheep? Like victims. Asking for domination. Please rule us, please help us. Wanting a hierarchy with someone on top who can rule them and dominate them. Why? Who wants that? Who can possibly want to be dominated? To be subjected? To be suppressed? Oppressed? Exploited? Why do we need kings and queens and presidents and chancellors and high priests and popes and generals and so on? Why do we need that? Do we need that at all? The usual explanation is it's part of the patriarchal system that has been in place for the last few thousand years. But is that really true? Maybe it's older than that. Would there really be no hierarchy in a matriarchal system? I have learned while living in Oroville, India, that most people cannot stand a power vacuum. There's no hierarchy in Oroville, but there are always attempts to create one. Because even people with a spiritual aspiration, it's very hard for them to bear a system without hierarchy. They perceive it as a power vacuum and they either need to fill it or find someone who fills it for them. Sure, there might be 30% or something who don't need a hierarchy and people to assume power. But the majority somehow, they feel safer and more comfortable with what they know, with what they have grown up and what they and their ancestors have been used to for thousands of years. Why, I've asked myself. There is a place on earth where you can live without hierarchy, without being dominated, and then people start to make efforts to get this old system of domination back. Why? Who can possibly want that? We've also seen in the last 3 years that some people were very happy with these restrictions. Very happy. It makes them feel safe and they think that the ruling elites, be it politicians or scientists or religious leaders, they know what they're talking about. They know better than I. It's a delegation of responsibility. If someone else is responsible, you don't have to be. So it's very, very hard for many people to take on responsibility. It's a lot of pressure. Why is that so much pressure? That should be natural for us. So as an exercise, have a look, feel, think into it. Is other places in your life where you avoid taking on responsibility or self-discipline, other aspects in your life where you delegate authority to others, to the elders, to religious leaders, political leaders, scientific leaders, economic leaders, and so on. Do you worship some idols? Maybe an actor or actress or pop star or some spiritual guru. And why do you do that? Why do you feel the need to do that? What is there in you that wants to be a follower or a leader? Two sides of the same coin. Why can you not just assume that everyone is the same? There is a theory that we have something like a slave gene built in, and that this can also be switched off. So, just as an exercise, consider this possibility. Have fun. Thank you for watching and subscribing and liking and joining me as a patron. Thank you for all my patrons, and see you soon.